You wake up each day assuming the world will meet you on neutral terms. You think your mood, your discipline, your to-do list, and your productivity hacks are what determine your outcomes. You think you are reacting to what is out there. You think you are the observer. You are not. The way your mind is set up decides which version of reality you get, not in a mystical sense. In a mechanical one. You are already inside a set of laws that reward some moves and erase others. If that sounds uncomfortable, good. That feeling marks the edge of the story you have been using to protect your habits. There is a belief behind most stalled progress. The belief that truth comes first and behavior follows. That you will see clearly, then act accordingly. The actual sequence is the opposite. You act, then justify. You guess, then confirm. You identify, then select evidence that protects that identity. The brain is not a camera. It is a prediction engine. It edits before it records. It builds a version of the world that lets you conserve energy, reduce uncertainty, and maintain a feeling of control. That is not a flaw. That is survival code. It only becomes a trap when you forget you are running it. 6 mental laws make this obvious. They are not motivational slogans. They are constraints and levers. They decide which version of reality you wake up in. The first law is framing by first input. The first thing you let in each morning is not entertainment. It is a frame that trains your attention system. The reticular activating system filters sensory data based on what you have recently tagged as relevant. Priming effects are not theory classroom tricks. They are reliable. Read crisis headlines, and your threat detection turns up. Your amygdala checks corners. Your working memory narrows. You scan for what fits the frame and ignore what does not. Check your messages, and you outsource your priorities to the loudest voice in your phone. Scroll visual noise, and your brain learns to expect rapid novelty and shallow reward. It will resist depth because you did not signal depth as useful. Contrast this with someone who sets context with intent. Not affirmation. Framing. A clear statement of what matters, what does not, and what trade-offs are already accepted. Stoic writers did this in the morning for a reason. They were not manifesting. They were sharpening the filter so the mind would tag the right signals as targets. If you do not choose the first frame, your environment will supply one that sells. Platforms are built to claim that slot. Attention is a market. You either farm it or you are farmed. This is not about moral panic. It is about control of the entry point that the rest of the day will serve. The second law is predictive identity. Your brain does not just predict the next sound or the next shape. It predicts who you are in the scene, then looks for data that supports that role. Predictive coding theory explains why placebo and nocebo effects are so strong. Expectation changes perception. William James called belief the organ of reality. Self-verification research shows that people seek feedback that confirms their self-view, even if it is negative, because confirmation reduces uncertainty. If you carry the identity of someone who is easily distracted, easily offended, or easily bored, your nervous system will make those expectations efficient. You will notice every micro cue that proves you right. You can see this in small choices. Someone who says, "I am not a morning person," will notice every sign that mornings are hostile. Someone who says, "I am not a numbers person," will filter out patterns that would help. Someone who says, "I am a builder," will see opportunities for structure inside noise. This is not magic. It is Bayesian. The prior you carry overrides weak evidence. Over time, the prior becomes strong. Then it stops feeling like a hypothesis and starts feeling like reality. You will defend it. You will protect it. You will sabotage anything that threatens it. That is why identity level shifts feel violent. They are. You are asking your prediction engine to retire a model that has paid your bills for years. If you want a different reality, you need to starve identities that create the old one. That starts with behavior signals, not declarations. The third law is incentive alignment. You do not do what you want. You do what is reinforced. B.F. Skinner mapped this out with animals, but you are not exempt because you read. Your behavior is a ledger of reinforcements. Variable rewards pull harder than fixed ones. Hyperbolic discounting tilts you toward what pays now, not what pays later. Dopamine does not equal pleasure. It encodes prediction error. It teaches you what to pursue again. If your current system pays you in quick hits for avoiding depth, your nervous system will protect that pattern like income. If your goals pay out in months and your daily life pays out in seconds, your goals will lose. This is why willpower collapses. Not because you are weak, because you set up a game with a payout schedule that makes defection rational. You can moralize this, or you can redesign it. You can make the behavior that builds your future pay you now. Not with treats, with state, with clarity, with small, visible wins that your brain can collect. You can strip the competing behavior of easy reward by removing its hooks. The point is simple. Saying something matters while rewarding the opposite teaches your nervous system to ignore your mouth. It listens to the ledger. The fourth law is social imitation. You think you want what you want. Look closer. René Girard called it mimetic desire. You catch preferences from models and peers. Mirror systems in the brain make it effortless. Status hierarchies decide what is considered desirable. Pierre Bourdieu showed how taste signals class and power. Veblen showed how some purchases exist to display waste. You are not floating outside these dynamics. You are inside a room that runs a game. The game tells you what to aim for. Likes, titles, purchases, bodies, ideals. You can pretend you are immune. Or you can admit that your desire is shaped by proximity and make a better choice about which room you stand in. Watch the difference between someone who takes their cues from celebrities and someone who takes their cues from operators. One performs to be seen. One builds to hold leverage. One measures by applause. One measures by optionality. One gets a reality of constant anxiety because the crowd is never done judging. One gets a reality of calm control because the metrics are private and the cash flow is real. This is not a virtue contest. It is a selection of rules. If the models you follow sell spectacle, your nervous system will calibrate for spectacle. If the models you follow reward patience and precision, your nervous system will stop craving noise. You cannot escape imitation. You can choose which desires to catch. The fifth law is affective bias. Your emotional state is not a decoration on top of reason. It is a regulator that selects which memories are accessible and which options seem real. Mood-congruent recall is well documented. When you feel angry, you find more reasons to be angry. When you feel ashamed, you recall your worst moments. Cortisol changes what the hippocampus can hand you. The amygdala flags what to watch. Under stress, your prefrontal cortex gives up flexibility to protect you fast. That keeps you alive, but it can also trap you in narrow action. Stoic philosophy separated impressions from judgments. It was not empty poetry. It was neuroeconomics before the lab equipment existed. Viktor Frankl pointed to the space between stimulus and response. That space can be small, but it is not zero. If you treat your current feeling as a fact, you collapse the space. If you treat your current feeling as a signal to be named and quarantined, you keep the space open. This does not mean you suppress emotion. It means you refuse to let state choose your story. People who let mood drive, meaning live inside a reality that swings. People who can sit with state without obeying it live inside a reality that stays. The sixth law is compounding through repetition. Neurons that fire together strengthen their connection. Hebbian plasticity is not an inspirational quote. It is wiring. The more you run a pattern, the easier it is to run again. Habits are not just behavior. They are grooves in tissue and grooves in environment. Path dependence is real. Initial conditions create future constraints. The Matthew effect shows how small advantages multiply. The same works in reverse. Small disadvantages accumulate. If your daily loop favors distraction by 5%, that 5% does not stay small. It compounds into a different personality and a different social graph. You literally wake up in a different world because your brain and your network are not the same. This also means that small, consistent shifts flip the model. One careful choice repeated across months does not feel dramatic. It makes you illegible to your old triggers. It decouples your nervous system from old cues. It changes which opportunities find you because your pattern of behavior broadcasts a new signal. People think change should feel heroic. In reality, change feels boring and then obvious. The system slowly reclassifies what you ignore and what you pursue. One day you notice you no longer wake up pulled by the same demands. The world did not soften. You hardened the right parts and softened the right parts. Your range expanded. Notice the thread that runs through these laws. First input sets the first filter. Identity predictions bias what you think you saw. Incentives pull your behavior into a predictable path. Social models program your wants. Emotion narrows your options. Repetition locks it all in. This is not a conspiracy. It is an ecosystem. Once you see it, the naive idea that you wake up to a neutral world becomes hard to keep. You wake up to a machine that expects you to play your old role. It is polite at first. It becomes ruthless when you resist without structure. You do not need motivation. You need constraints that pay you to do the right thing under stress. The contrast is not between optimists and pessimists. It is between authors and spectators. Spectators argue about fairness. Authors study structure. Spectators take pride in how much they feel. Authors take pride in how much they can hold without flinching. Spectators spend their mornings checking the scoreboard. Authors spend their mornings loading their frame. One path gives you a reality that reacts to you with indifference. The other path gives you a reality that yields slowly to pressure applied in the right place. Philosophers you recognize already did this work. Epictetus had nothing. He still claimed a kind of absolute control because he placed his identity where no one could touch it. Marcus Aurelius had everything. He described the same move while carrying the weight of an empire. Nietzsche warned about people who adopt borrowed values and then collapse under them. Machiavelli wrote that men choose the less dangerous path when fear and love conflict. He was not advocating cruelty. He was mapping incentives. Kahneman and Tversky measured the biases your mind uses to save energy. Seth Roberts showed how self-experimentation can change your set point without ego theater. None of this is positive thinking. It is cold mechanics. That is why it works. If you want to test whether you are owned by these laws or using them, look at 3 places. What grabs you when you first wake up? What identity you protect when you are criticized? What behavior gets paid in your daily environment? If your answers reveal that outside forces own your first input, that a fragile self-image owns your predictions, and that low-quality rewards own your actions, then your reality is not yours. If your answers reveal that you picked your first frame, that your identity is tied to process instead of trait, and that your environment pays persistence more than avoidance, then your reality is built, not borrowed. Make no mistake, most people will not change this. The current order pays them to stay in the loop. It flatters them. It gives them badges for compliance. It swaps depth for drama and calls it culture. It teaches them to treat their biology like an enemy and their devices like a friend. It gives them a vocabulary that can describe every injury and almost no strategy. They will get defensive if you touch their frame. They will call patience privilege and discipline oppression. That is their right. They can keep that world. You can hold something else. Silent rules do not advertise themselves. They move under talk. You can keep them close. You can apply them without speech. You can shift your first input and never announce it. You can shape your identity through action and let people meet the new version when it is already old to you. You can align your incentives so well that strangers think you have superhuman willpower when you are simply getting paid by a better system. You can pick models who do not need to perform. You can treat emotion as information, not instruction. You can let repetition do the heavy lifting. None of this makes you a saint. It makes you dangerous to the default settings. The price is non-negotiable. You will give up some comforts that your old identity used to stay coherent. You will stop cosplaying someone else's status game. You will lose the toxic relief that came from blaming the universe every time you failed to set a clean frame. You will become responsible for what you wake up to. Autonomy and blame live in the same room. Enter anyway, because the alternative is to live under a story built by people who do not think about you at all, except as a metric. If you want a simple rule to anchor this, use the strongest one the Stoics left us. Separate what is yours from what is not. Your first frame is yours. Your predictions are yours. Your incentives, once you see them, are yours. Your models are yours. Your state is yours to interpret. Your repetitions are yours. The world can disagree. It can press on you. It cannot stop you from running your laws. Over time, it will adjust to you. Not because it loves you, because systems yield to persistent pressure. This is not for everyone. It is for the few who would rather be quietly effective than loudly understood. It is for people who do not need applause to do the obvious thing. If that is you, stay close. The next layer is harder and more costly. You will not see it in public feeds. Most people will never want it. If you do, prove it. Protect your first input tomorrow. Refuse the identity that pays you in excuses. Reward the behavior you claim to value. Stand near models who make you calm, not loud. Treat your state as data and keep moving. Repeat until the world has no choice but to meet you on your terms. If you can do that, you will stop waking up inside a borrowed reality. You will wake up inside one that fits your design. Not perfect, not painless, yours. That is enough. That is rare. That is the point.